cop arrests a 9-year-old boy, but when he realizes he's the son of the black police chief, things spiral in ways he could never imagine. Only 7 minutes later, he's the one calling for help, desperate and shaken. What could have happened to turn his confidence into fear so quickly? And what hidden truth does this young boy carry that could turn the entire police force upside down? The sun beamed down on Maplewood Park, warming the fresh spring air as children's laughter echoed across the playground. 9-year-old Caleb Watson's short curls bounced as he darted between the swing sets, his blue sneakers kicking up wood chips while he dodged his friends' attempts to catch him. The gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of blooming magnolias, adding to the perfect afternoon. "Can't catch me!" Caleb called out, grinning as he weaved past the monkey bars, his heart pounding with excitement. His friend Molly, her red ponytail swishing, reached out with both hands, nearly grazing Caleb's shoulder. "Just wait until I tag you. You're not getting away this time," she laughed, her own sneakers pounding the ground as she tried to close the gap. Theo, wearing his favorite dinosaur t-shirt that had faded from countless washes, wasn't far behind. "I'm going to get you first," he shouted, determination clear in his voice. The three friends zigzagged through the playground, their faces flushed with joy and excitement. They'd played this game countless times, always ending up breathless and happy, their laughter blending with the sounds of creaking swings and chirping birds. Officer Jessica Grant walked along her usual patrol route, her boots clicking against the sidewalk as she neared the park. She paused, her attention drawn to the children playing. As her gaze focused on Caleb, something about his quick movements made her uneasy, though she couldn't quite place why. She watched him carefully, her fingers drumming against her belt. Without a second thought, Jessica strode purposefully into the playground, her boots crunching against the wood chips. She approached Caleb with a stern look, casting a long shadow over him as he slowed down, noticing her presence. In one swift motion, she grabbed the boy's arm, stopping him with enough force to make him stumble. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, her grip firm, leaving pale marks on his dark skin. Caleb's eyes went wide with confusion, the joy from moments earlier vanishing in an instant. "We're just playing tag," he replied, his voice trembling as he tried to make sense of the situation. "Officer, wait!" Molly shouted, running up to them, panic evident in her voice. "He's our friend Caleb. We play with him all the time." Theo joined, his face flushed from both running and distress, his dinosaur shirt now damp with sweat. "We're just playing. Caleb didn't do anything wrong." Jessica's expression remained hard as she started pulling Caleb toward the park entrance, ignoring the pleas of the other kids. "There have been safety issues here recently. I need to make sure everyone's safe," she replied curtly, casting a glance around the playground. Caleb's lip quivered, tears beginning to form in his eyes. "Please, I was just playing with my friends. We come here every day after school." Jessica's grip didn't loosen. "Stop crying and come with me," she ordered, leading him toward her squad car parked nearby, its paint gleaming in the sun. Molly and Theo exchanged a quick look of alarm before sprinting down the path toward Caleb's house, their feet slapping against the pavement as they raced to get help. By the time Caleb found himself in the back seat of the police car, he was fighting back tears, his small shoulders shaking. Just minutes ago, he'd been laughing with his friends. Now he was alone and scared, staring out the window at the park he loved. Meanwhile, Molly and Theo reached Caleb's house, breathless and frantic. They rang the doorbell repeatedly until Detective Patrick Watson answered, wearing a worn t-shirt and jeans, his tall frame filling the doorway. "Officer Grant took Caleb," Molly blurted out, tears spilling down her cheeks. "We were just playing, and she grabbed him. She wouldn't listen when we told her he didn't do anything." Patrick's face darkened, his jaw tightening as he processed their words. He immediately grabbed his keys from the entry table. "You did the right thing coming here. Go home now. I'll take care of this." Minutes later, Patrick pulled up to Maplewood Park. As he stepped out, he spotted his son in the back seat of Jessica's squad car, his small face streaked with tears. Jessica was standing by the car, filling out a report on her tablet. When she noticed Patrick approaching, her expression shifted from indifference to shock. She stammered, "Detective Watson, I didn't realize." Patrick's voice was low and controlled, but his eyes blazed with fury. "Officer Grant, I need an explanation as to why my son is sitting in the back of your squad car." Jessica swallowed, her gaze flicking between Caleb and her superior. I thought there was a potential safety risk. There's been an increase in incidents here, and I thought..." "You thought what, officer?" Patrick interrupted, his voice cold. "What did you see that made you think a child playing tag with his friends was a threat?" Jessica shifted uncomfortably, her cheeks flushing. I had safety concerns. I just wanted to make sure everyone was okay." Patrick's jaw tightened. "Tell me, would you have had those same concerns if my son looked different? Would you have had the same reaction if he was a white child playing here?" Jessica opened her mouth to respond but faltered, glancing around as onlookers began gathering, curious about the confrontation. "I'm waiting for an answer, Officer Grant," Patrick said, taking a step closer. "Why was it necessary to put my son in handcuffs and drag him to your car? Explain to me how a boy running around with his friends seemed threatening to you." Sweat beaded on Jessica's forehead as she struggled to find words. She looked down, avoiding the stares of both Patrick and the growing crowd. "I made a mistake," she mumbled, barely audible. Patrick took a deep breath, his voice lowering. "You traumatized my son today, officer. I expect better judgment from my officers." As he opened the car door and helped Caleb out, a few people in the crowd murmured their support, shaking their heads in disapproval at Jessica. She stood there, red-faced, her hands fidgeting with her belt as Patrick led Caleb to his car, holding him close. Just as they were about to drive away, Jessica's phone buzzed in her pocket. She answered it, but her face quickly drained of color. Her hand went to her mouth as she whispered, "My son, he's missing." Patrick, noticing her sudden panic, glanced over, his anger fading slightly. "What happened?" Jessica stammered, her voice shaky. "My son, he was at his friend's house, but now no one knows where he is." Patrick's police instincts kicked in as he pulled his phone out, already dialing for backup. "We'll help find him. Stay calm and tell me everything you know." Jessica's eyes filled with tears as she recounted what she'd heard from her son's friend's parents. Patrick coordinated the search, dividing the efforts between officers and local volunteers. Caleb, sitting quietly in his father's car, watched as Jessica's hardened expression melted into one of raw fear and desperation. As the search stretched into the night, Jessica's face grew increasingly worn. She leaned against her car, clutching her phone, staring into the darkness as if willing her son to appear. Patrick placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll find him." Hours passed, and then, just before dawn, one of the search teams radioed in. They'd found a young boy matching her son's description near the edge of Maplewood Park, unharmed but scared. Jessica ran to him, scooping him up into her arms, her relief spilling over into tears. She whispered a choked thank you to Patrick, unable to meet his gaze, knowing how she'd treated his son only hours earlier. The sun was rising as the search teams dispersed, and Jessica stood by her car, her son still in her arms, looking over at Patrick and Caleb. She approached them slowly, her face flushed with emotion. "I'm so sorry for everything." Patrick gave her a long look, then nodded. "Learn from this, Jessica. Don't let it happen again." Jessica swallowed, her face full of remorse, as Patrick led Caleb away, his hand resting protectively on his son's shoulder. The park was quiet again, the first rays of sunlight casting soft light over the playground where children would soon be laughing once more.